Hello everyone, and welcome to the God Guide for Ra, the Egyptian sun god. For those of you who are new to the channel, this is the Codex, and in this channel we do God guides for each of the gods I just recently started. So this and then Thor, my last beginner gods, and I'm gonna start taking requests. But as a heads up, the videos do take a while because of the fact that I want to make sure the God guides are the best they can be. So I don't want to leave out information that wouldn't be beneficial. So it takes some time because I learn new things that I might not learn if it's like a god I haven't played as much. I have played every single god in this game and know pretty much a majority of the ins and outs and can help out greatly. But again, I want to make sure the quality of the content is the best. Anyway, going into Ra. Ra is just as a heads up, his main focus is he's supposed to be a utility slash long range burst mage. Before showing combos, advanced tips, all that stuff like that, I first make things very simple. I go over the basic abilities, show examples and instances where they'll be very useful. And then go into the unique thing about him and how to build him, God builds, all that stuff like that. As a heads up, God builds will most likely change when the meta shifts, so it might not be as relevant in the future because like right now it's the 4th season, 4.17 or 6 is the current patch I'm on. And like when it's season 5, some items might not even be in the game anymore. We have no idea what's going to happen in the future. But as of right now, this is how you would build him for the most part. Best way to do it. Anyway, at the beginning of all these god guides, I go to level 5 immediately. And go over each ability. First off, Ra's passive, the speed of light. Every single time Ra uses an ability, his movement speed is increased by 6%, and it stacks up to 3 times, and it lasts for 15 seconds. So every single time I would use an ability, I get a 6-second movement speed buff. If I use 2 abilities within the 15, the best way to show it actually is I'll use an ability right now. I'm at 6% movement speed, and this timer starts going down. It starts at 15 seconds and goes down. If I were to use ability within these 15 seconds, I get another stack. So now I'm at 2 stacks. I'm at 12% movement speed increased, and it's still going down by 15. It goes back to 15 and goes straight down. Same thing with the third. I'm now at 18% movement. And this movement is, a lot of people underrate. This movement is really, really good. Especially with this 2 when I go into that ability. But even though I'm at 3 stacks right now, if I were to use another ability, it would just reset the timer. It wouldn't be like, oh, the timer is non-existent because you can't add another stack. It just resets it. It puts it in like kind of like a pool where each ability goes in a little list. And the 4th ability will override the first one, so to say. Anyway, going over his basic attack is very simple. Nothing to talk about really. It's 34 magical power, and it increases by 1.5 per level, and it's 20% scaling. His 1 now going over. Ra's 1 is called Celestial Beam. Ra summons a moving bead of intense light from the sky, doing damage to anyone caught under the beam. So, this goes through walls as a heads up. So this is just a normal example. I can hit him here, and it will do 118, and I can hit him through here once the ability comes off cooldown. I'm actually going to get cooldown items real quick just so I can speed things up. Okay, he's right here. I can hit him through this wall for 118. So that's his 1. His 1's very simple, straightforward. Now, Ra's 2. This ability is, I think, the only... Yeah, right now it's the only one in the game that blinds. Ra's 2 is... He activates around a 30 radius around him, so 60 in total diameter. He activates his 2, and anyone around him in his 2 gets a slow, and then after 2 seconds the 2 detonates, and anyone who's still in that radius takes damage. It's 60, and I believe it's 40% magical scaling. I'll actually check right now. The best way to do this, by the way, is you can get Emperor's Helmet. It's 10 magical power. So yes, it's 40. So I'm just going to activate this. And he will take damage so once this detonates. The 2 has 3 interesting properties that a lot of people don't know about. So everyone knows about the blind, about why if you face him with his 2 activated, you'll be blind. However, people don't know about this is how slow works. So how it works is if I were to activate this right now, for every 0.5 seconds they're near me, they get a stacking slow. However, if they are facing me while at that 0.5 seconds, instead of getting 1 stack of the slow, they will get 2 stacks of the slow. So how it will work is, let's say for example I use my 2 on this. Actually, the best I can actually show best example on this Ra, because he's gonna do the same thing to me once he uses his 3 and his ultimate, because that's what Robot does. Let him take it. So you'll see right here, I'm looking away from him. It stacks, and I get Divine Light on me. It stacks 4 times, but you notice that was only 4 there. If he were to do the same thing to me again, and I'm facing him this time, it goes to 8, as you saw down there. And I get 2 extra ones on top of that. So how the 2 works is, so I can be facing him at one of the 0.5 second intervals, and look away, and I would instead get I would get a 2 stack and then a 1 stack. So this is really important to note when you're facing Ra, because if you are literally facing him while his 2 is activated, even though you're gonna turn away because you're like, oh, so long as I turn away, the blind won't affect me, and that's the only thing. The slow is constant. No, the slow is not. The slow varies depending on if you're facing him or not. The longer you are facing him while his 2 is active, the more slow you'll get. And the slow is 5% per stack, so you can get from a 40% slow put in onto you, because it can stack up to 8 times. And then when it detonates, it applies another slow stack and increasing the slow duration. So you can, if you were to be facing him during the entire duration of his 2, and you look at him when it detonates, you will be slowed for 50% of your movement speed. However, if you were to like turn last second, you'll be slowed for 45% of your movement speed, because there'll be 8 stacks for facing him, and then you turn away last second so you don't get blinded, so it'll be another stack on top of that, so it'll be 9 stacks. So that's very important to note when you're facing Ra. If you were to leave the area, even though each of the slow stacks lasts for 3 seconds, it doesn't actually say this. So you can be slowed for 50% of your movement speed for 3 seconds. But it can be from if you were not to face him, it can be from anywhere from 20% slow, 25% slow to 50% slow. So this is very important to note when fighting Ra. I did not know this originally. I originally thought the slow was constant. You only had to deal with the flashing light at the end if you faced him and to be blinded. No, it's actually not the case, and that's really cool. When talking about his passive and a little bit of more advanced techniques in a little bit, I'll talk about his 2 and a very interesting thing about it as well. Ra's 3, Solar Blessing. Solar Blessing is, he puts down a pool, and anyone in the pool, any allies in the pool will be healed and get protection increase. The heal is 10 and then 10% of your magical power, and it goes up to 20, 30, 40, 50, and then 10% of your magical power. And while you're in the pool, it gives you protections. As a heads up, I'm going to show it right here. While I'm in this does not stack. It's not like it's not a tick thing where I get stacked each time. So this is that's a very important fact to note. So the protections, they're not like a stacking protection. There will be 10. If it's level 1, it will be 10, and no matter how long they stay in it, it will only be 10 protections. This is a very important fact to note, because other abilities work with ticks. This is not, even though the damage is per tick and the heal is per tick, the protections are not per tick. This is a very important thing to note. Any enemies in this take damage over time. Each tick is, did it actually say how long? 6 every second, so it takes 6 ticks. So think of it like this. At level 1, if you were to hit if they were to stay in here, it would do 120 damage at level 1, excluding scaling. The scaling, and it goes to, it would be 120, then it goes up by 12, so it goes up by, so it would go up by 74, that's actually, sorry, 72. So it goes up by 72 damage each time you level it up. So it'll be 120, then it will be 192, and it'll go up, etc. Which is really weird in terms of scaling. Normally they want to stay even, they normally like doing 10s. I'm surprised it's like this, actually. Another interesting thing about the 3 is this ability does heal minions, and this is very useful in the wave. I'll go into that when I talk about wave clearing with him. His ultimate is just like his 1. His ultimate is a straight line, just like his 1. This is 1. And his ultimate is a channel ability, and after... It doesn't actually say how long. We'll actually do the math right here. We'll wait at 11:10, and then I'll do my ultimate to see. So I do my ultimate. Takes 1 second to fire. And it's a straight line. Anyone hitting that line takes damage. An important thing to note when using this ability. You are CC immune during this ability. Let's say, for example, Ares comes in and ults you and tries to pull you away. You can use this as a way to get beads if you were to time it right. Y is actually, even though he doesn't have a full-fledged escape, even though you guys can't see me, I'm putting air quotes around escape. The movement speed from his passive and his ultimate giving him CC immunity, and his ultimate is one of the shortest cooldowns in the entire game. At max rank, it comes back in 30 seconds. If I also had Chronos Pendant instead of like this, because Chronos Pendant is actually really normal on Ra, this ultimate will come back in 27 seconds, which is extremely fast for an ultimate to come back. Think of it. You can also think of it as, instead of an ultimate coming back every 27 seconds, you can also think of it as beads come back every 27 seconds, and that is extremely beneficial. But you have to stand still during it. Other than that, his ultimate's very straightforward. It comes back super fast. When talking about builds, he builds a lot of cooldown, and it works out really well with him. As a little other interesting notes, talking about his passive and his, this is a little bit of really useful trivia note. Waz 2, when you back to your base in Conquest, Joust, whatever it is, because of the fact that this counts as a fountain right now, so I'm going to use some abilities. If I were to be in the fountain, I get my mana back per second, whatever it is. So, a lot of people don't think of this either. And this works with any character too. Thor, Cal, anyone with a jump or leap or any sort of movement speed buff. When you're in your fountain, there's always a benefit to use your movement ability out of the fountain to get back to lane faster. Because of the fact normally, in a few circumstances, like for example, all his jump, he doesn't get the tick back because it uses the mana once he leaps, which is kind of strange. It's not always consistent. But how it works is you will be getting that mana back by the time you get back to lane. So you want to use the abilities. You can use your abilities in the fountain, and you will get no negative downside from it. So this is important in the case of Law, because of the fact that I can use my abilities in the fountain, use my 3, and then move, and get that movement speed to get back to lane faster. And I didn't cost any mana, I just pretty much get 12 movement speed instantly. A very interesting thing to note is Waz 2. So how Waz 2 works is, if I were to click it right now, I don't get the stack until the detonate goes off. This is a very important aspect when it comes to maximizing the benefit when leaving the base. How you want to leave the base is you want to use your 1, 3, and 2 if you want to get the biggest distance. However, if you just backed and you want to get there the fastest, once Speed of Light, the passive show, you want to start with your 2 first, use your 3 and your 1, and then start moving. Because by the time you get that 1 out, your 2 detonates, so you already have your 3 stacks. So this will be used. This will be used if you want to get back to lane fastest. The other method will be used if you want to. If you want to have the movement speed for the longest duration without having to use another ability. But a lot of the time, especially late, this would be mainly used for late game. You would have enough mana and enough MP5 to spend another for your 1. But there could be a team fight or something. You have no idea what's going on. It's situational. That's in terms of his 2. His 3, again, it does give protections, and it does heal. If you have a warrior fighting, let's say this is my Odin. Actually, I can make this my Odin. Actually, no, I can't make him my Odin. I can only make him, I can only be friends with this Ra. But if this Odin is on my team and taking damage, or is fighting, I'll put the heal on him. He gets the protections, and he gets healing while he's fighting in there. So this is important to note. Make sure you heal. You're putting it. If you're not healing your teammates in the back line, you're putting it down for the protections for the front line, and they can box better and all that. However, the heal is also useful in terms of the factor of sieging. One of Ra's biggest strengths in the game right now is sieging. This has always been a strength of his. Because a lot of time team fights will happen, both sides will expend a lot, and then both sides will be very low. Because Ra is a healer, this is where his utility comes in. He could put his 3 down not only in towers / front line and let the people who are tanking the tower take less damage from the tower, and also get healed. It's also useful in terms of the fact that like you can force them to fight when they're low, because of the fact that if you heal your team back up to full, you can force an objective fight when the enemy team doesn't have as much resources available to them. So this Ra's 3 Solar Blessing is great in terms of that. The main way to implement Ra Ultimate is, in terms of Ra, is mainly, this is where his long range burst is. His ultimate is specifically, obviously can go through walls, like as you can see from the targeter here. But it's pretty much because it's always back on cool, since it's such a low cooldown. Again, this will be 27 seconds if you have Chronos Pendant and with max cooldown. Ra sometimes just ults the wave. Like if there's a minion wave coming in, he does this. As you can see here, his ultimate goes about 110, maybe 140 for meter wise, for distance wise. His one only goes about 85, and this is slower than this. If there's like a lot of pressure in mid lane, he can use this to just clear and then back off, and he can use this to literally just try to steal objectives, and you might be able to hit people because of how long range this is. Ra's been very beneficial with it. Now, that's his abilities. There's nothing else really to say about Ra in terms of that, because his abilities are very basic. Going into level order. Let me get to level 1 real quick. Okay, so level 1. In the current meta, you take your 1. This is specifically because of the fact that the mid and jungle lane together. Normally, if it's just the mids versus each other, you take your 3. This is important because of the fact that the 1 is faster when it comes to burst doing damage to the wave, and the 3 the minions have to be in all the ticks for the well, actually, it has to be in 5 of the ticks to do the most damage. The minions have to be in it for 5 seconds. However, because of the fact that both the jungle and the mid start together, they will be clearing at least your front line normally, depending on the matchup. If it's like a Thoth and like who's a bad if it's like a Thoth and a, let's say a Thoth and a, no, Kali has good clear. Let's say a Thoth and a Hunbats. Hunbats is not the best example, but that's the thing I can think of off the top of my head. But if you're versing a Huns and a Thoth and a Hunbats, then your 3 is better off because they won't clear the front line in time for your 3 to not get all the ticks off. And however, a lot of the time, like let's say for example you're versing a Kali and a Isis, they will clear that wave nearly instantaneously, and you're not going to get all the ticks on your 3. Or the place where you're going to put it, you're not going to get all the ticks on. So that's why you want to start your 1 first. However, again, if this was just a normal matchup, if you're versing, for example, Agni and versus Wa, and so long as you're not facing an Anubis, really, you can put your you can level up your 3 first and put the heal between your front line and their front line, and your front line will last longer. And the Agni can't kill the wave from his flame dash because you're healing the minions. But normally you'll take your 1 in this current meta. At level 2, now this question becomes, do I take my 2 or my 3? And this is situational based. The 3 is normally better in terms of the factor of clearing the wave. However, 2 is better if you're going for a fight at level 2. Because the slow is very usual, they're not going to expect it a lot of the time. They will get a 25 to 50% slow on them, which is really bad, like really difficult to deal with early game because they don't have boots. And if you have a really good jungler who has great clear, you don't have to worry as much as clearing the wave. Your 1 will do good enough as it is. So I would, depending on the matchup and the scenario, you can take your 2, you can take your 3. Majority of the cases though, I take my 3. At level 3, I take another point in my 1, no matter which one I did. At level 4, you should look like this. At level 5, you should have your ultimate. There's no real point in having another point in Solar Blessing when, Celestial Beam when Searing Pain is good. Like, it's pretty much the same thing as Divine Light. The only difference is it costs a little bit less mana, and the cooldown is 60 seconds difference. But, again, this cooldown is really low. And it's a really good burst. This does 400, and it's 100% scaling on magical power. And this is 100, it will become 215, and then 80%. But by this moment, you wouldn't have that much magical power to begin with. So, and besides, this magical scaling is better on this. At level 6, you should be leveling, and level 7, you should level up your Celestial Beam. At level 8, I honestly recommend point skipping, though while you don't need to point skip, you can take another point. You can take a point in his 3 if you have you should never, at this moment, your 3 is better than your 2. The healing is better, and on top of that, your 2, Wa doesn't want to be close up that much of the time. The 2, the slow doesn't scale at all, it's just damage increase. And the course mana increase compared to this, which is they're both 10%. 10 mana increase, but the 2 you don't really want to use, and the 2 is more used to like escape or to set up your ultimate. And again, the setting up this ultimate, that's more for the slow. And there's no slow increase. The heal increase, the protections increase, the damage increases. This is better. So you can point skip and wait till 9 to put a point into your 1 and your ultimate, or you can put a point into your 3. It's really scenario based and depends entirely on your team composition as well. Level 9, if you do point skip, you would have this. If not, it would be 4 to 2. At level 10, you should always look like this. 11, you should always put points into your 3. 12, point into your 3. 13, you can put a point into your... I honestly suggest putting a point into your ultimate, because that makes the cooldown come back faster. Does more damage, of course. But you can put a point into your 3 if your ultimate's on cooldown at the current moment, because of the fact that normally you get to your level 14, and your ultimate will be back up by then, depending on the scenario. But you can look like this, or you can look like... at 14, you should always look like this. 15, 16, you should always put points into your 2. 17 into your ultimate. 18, 19 into your 2. And then 20 into your ultimate. Talking about build-wise, real quick. So normally how Wa starts off. So Wa can go pretty much any starter item and be fine. Sand of Time is very, very useful on Wa because of the cooldown reduction. And the MP5 is great because of the fact that you're going to be using spells a lot to not only clear the wave, but to get your passive. The movement speed is very useful, and you can get good rotations off of it. Soulstone is very useful, getting the mana back and doing a bit more damage. With Soulstone, you can really destroy the wave at level 1. Vampiric Shroud is also really useful, though I don't recommend it as much. I prefer Sands of Time or Soulstone, particularly Sands of Time. Though Soulstone you can go through if you're doing a different build. I don't recommend Vampiric Shroud as much, specifically because of the first item I normally recommend. But normally I would get Sands of Time and go into Tier 1 of Tiny Trigon. And then get 1 health potion and 2 healing potions. Level 1 relic, let me just get to level 1 real quick. Level 1 relic, I highly suggest, you can go beads or Aegis. That's pretty much the only 2 I suggest, depending on matchup. Let's say if you're versing a Poseidon, you want Aegis. If you're versing something like an Ares and a Nox, you want beads. If they have something along the lines of, what's the best way? If they have like a Thoth and Bastet or something, Aegis. If Sprint, I can also recommend Sprint here too. Sprint is very useful on WoW. You can juke a lot around with the Sprint and slow immunity. One of the Boar's biggest weakness is slows. Because slows, he relies heavily on movement speed from his passive. Slows will kind of destroy him. So Sprint can negate this problem. I don't recommend Shield, don't recommend Thorns, don't recommend Spear, don't recommend the only Phantom you shouldn't be getting. It should be your solo lane or support getting it if you're dealing with an Odin, because Odin is particularly useful, very useful against Ra because he stops all healing. And Ra doesn't really have a way. He doesn't have a way out of the cage except for Phantom. Belt of Frenzy, I don't recommend getting this first. If anything, at level 12 you might get it. If you have beads and Aegis and don't think you need Sprint or Phantom. Other than that, I don't recommend anything else. Blink. Blink can work well for getting close engages with his 2. So like you can do something like you use your 2 while it's channeling and then blink to your enemy. So they wouldn't expect it and they would be blinded. This can be useful, however, I don't suggest it a lot of the time because of the fact that though you can juke a good amount, blink is not the best. I would rather have some sort of they're gonna be focusing you. That's why I would prefer Aegis and beads, but it works. Anyway, going back, you go into tier 1 Tiny Trinket for the lifesteal, and because you want that Pythagorean piece, because of the fact that Ra is going to be around his team a lot, applying heals, etc., you can get the most out of Pythagorean piece. However, you might want to start off getting boots first. It's very dependent up to you. Shoes of Focus isn't bad because Ra gets a lot of cooldown. Though in this build, if you go the Sands of Time route, I always suggest going Shoes of the Magi because of the fact that you're going to get Chronos Pendant and you'll overcap yourself with cooldown until you sell Sands of Time, of course. That's the Shoes of the Magi. Shoes of Focus can be useful. If you're going Soulstone start instead, Shoes of Focus. Anyway, you would finish the Pythagorean piece majority of the time. Next is depending on the scenario. They have healing, Divine Ruin. Though there are better gods to implement Divine Ruin than Ra, but if they have healing, Divine Ruin. If not, you can go into Obsidian Shard. Is very useful on Ra. You can go Spear of the Magus if you have a lot of mages on your team, a lot of sources of magical damage, but I honestly suggest Obsidian Shard next. Next up, you can go either, if you need a bit more penetration, let's say for example you did go Spear of Vessel or Divine Ruin. Oh, okay. We go Divine Ruin. You can go Voidstone next if you go in Divine Ruin to get some more penetration. Depending on what happens. If you went Obsidian Shard, you can go Gem of ISO, so it even makes all your abilities slow and can make you even better. Or at this moment, you can go into Water Tahuti or Chronos Pendant. I like Chronos Pendant because at this moment you're probably around level 13 or 14, and this will come back in 36 seconds. Or in terms of Chronos Pendant, it will be 33 seconds, and that caps out your cooldown right now. Then you'll go into Water Tahuti. you would sell this, and you can either go into a Stone of Flail if they have a lot of burst, because they want to focus you as well. Shield of Regrowth is tempting, but it isn't that great because of the fact that WoW already gets movement speed from his passive, and there is diminishing returns, but you can go Shield of Regrowth. It isn't bad. Um, though honestly speaking, I won't actually recommend cooldown because of the fact that the Potion of Magical Might gives you 10% cooldown. So instead, what I would do is I'd probably go into either a Soul Reaver, a Gem of Isolation. Eternal Staff isn't bad. I don't really recommend Shaman Ring on Raw. Bancrofts, we already have Lifesteal, I don't recommend it. I don't recommend any of the Hasten Rings or the Demonic Grip. Locust Crown, you can go. Locust Crown is very useful. Really why can go a lot, so is very versatile in terms of his build. You can actually start off going Locust Crown second. You can start off with Boots first and go Locust Crown second. I always suggest Pythagorean Piece because it's a very useful item for your team. You want the Obsidian Shard for the penetration. Chronos Pendant is just a really good item on Rod because that ultimate comes back super fast. And Rod is always good on any mage if you have a good amount of damage. Already mentioned about Beads and Aegis. Just gonna get the 20 just to show it. Quick. Aegis or Sprint, depending on the all depends on matchup. And look at that. So as a heads up though, when you're versing Wa, you want Aegis. Because of the fact you can go off sound cues to know when to use your Aegis correctly. Because notice when he does his ultimate, you hear him say Wa, or Ra if it's the normal Ra he streams. In this case, in the skin, he says Ra America. But you can use game volume to tell when he's ulting you, and you can use Aegis at the current moment. Of course, if they have Ares or something like that, you would rather have Beads instead. But against Ra, you want Aegis and Sprint if you can, because Sprint will stop us too. One thing you need to watch out for, and this is in general in terms of fighting Ra, at level 5 to whenever, once he gets his ultimate up, if he is to slow you with the 2, he can get a guarantee ult. What the hell? I have no idea what happened there. That's actually really strange. But regardless, you can get a guaranteed follow. You can nearly get a guaranteed follow-up if you slow them for long enough with your 2. If you get the 40% to 50% slow on them, you can get an ultimate while they're trying to run away, and they can't really juke it. So long as you read which direction they would like to go, that they would go. You would blind them, and as Ra would chase you, you can ult him immediately afterwards. Or if they're escaping, they'll be slow, and you can ult them from the slow. Unfortunately, it's not the best example here, but we can. It's better off. It's better off shown in an actual game. I will be trying to get a gameplay later on, in terms of whatever the God Guide I'll be doing that week. I'll be trying to do an arena or a conquest or something to show better implementation of the God. Though it's not always going to be the best. But I will be trying again. I will be trying my best to show it. A few less interesting bits and pieces to note about Ra is with this 2, like I said before, it is a channel ability. The ability doesn't go off until it detonates, but you can use your 2 and then use Aegis, and it will go off while you're Aegised. So you will still be doing damage while you're immune to everyone else doing damage to you. I already mentioned about the ultimate being very good in terms of objective stealing. You can even use it on just like mid camps, experience camps, etc. But the ultimate can reach all the way from here at Gold Fury. The best way I can show it is actually in a game of Conquest. So But regardless, Ra is really, really good at stealing because of his distance, how safe he is. And on top of that, he is an extremely menacing threat when your teammate is trying to do Gold Fury. Because you're going to all be trying to, any of the melees are going to be close in the line trying to hit the Gold Fury. This ultimate will cover all of that. I know I'm at Fire Giant here, but I'm just showing an example. If someone's basic attacking the Fire Giant, he could put it here, hit Fire Giant, and guarantee hit you and probably some other people if they're like there's if you guys are trying to tank it. They're gonna try to move your ADC or whatever is gonna try to move to the right when the lava pool, well, not when the lava pools come up, but when the Fire Giant's doing his little pattern. Best way I actually want to show it here. So that little this here, that little cut down in the middle, that will be very beneficial for Ra to abuse. If like Fire Giant he can't steal, he can use that though to quote unquote get a kill because they have to try to avoid that, and that will give him a slow for him. Lastly, just other items that might be useful would be I already mentioned about Shield of Regrowth can be useful. Bancroft isn't bad, but I prefer for Pythagorean because it helps out the team more. You can go a Mantle of Discord if you're having real problems with like particular gods. More specifically, like a Loki or something like that, or a Kali. Actually, for Kali, I would recommend. Not here. It's under physical. It's under Spectral Armor. I highly suggest for Kali. Just because of the fact that she has to basic attack you and you can fear her away. I think I already mentioned about Stone of Flail. Stone of Flails are very useful items. That way Ra doesn't get bursted as much. Stone of Buying I don't recommend. I already said Void Steel can be a good item. I'm just looking through here. I already said Gem Isolation. Warlocks can be useful. Whatever Sleepiest can be useful, though I don't highly recommend it. Soul Weaver can be useful. And that's pretty much it in terms of Jade Emperor's Crown isn't bad, but your support is most likely going to build at the current meta. You can also go Dynasty Playhound if you need the protections, but it's really up to you. Well, it's very versatile in the fact you can build them a lot of ways. Magical wise, I already said all that. You can go Wingblade if you have they have a really slow heavy comp, but I don't recommend it. Can still be very useful. Don't get me wrong, Wingblade is very useful in certain scenarios. Other than that, nothing else. Right? Yeah, nothing else. So that's been Ra. I hope you enjoyed this God Guide. If you enjoy these, please like the video. If you have suggestions, I will be taking them because the only other video, the next guaranteed one is Thor. But then afterwards, it's fair game for everyone. So I will take any suggestions. If there are no suggestions, I will be going with gods I do know first. Other than that, that's pretty much all there is to say. So if you enjoyed, like the video. If you want to see more, subscribe to my channel. I also do Fallout. I'm doing Fallout New Vegas at the current moment, and a lot of other videos. I do Smite a lot, and a lot of other shorts gameplay series with friends. Though at the current moment, not as many videos are going to be uploaded because I'm currently in school, and school comes first before this. Even though I do enjoy doing this, love giving things to the community, like giving detailed information about God guides and playing games. School is a priority, and I need that has to be taken care of first. So, other than that, nothing else. Thank you for watching, and this has been the Codex signing off.